The Pit Press Podcast.
Reinholdt launches from downtown. No. Van Horn, no. And that's it. New Mexico wins it.
Kenny Thomas blocks. Gibson hustling down. He has some room. And he gets it. Oh, long three. He got it. Oh, my goodness.
Kendall Williams from 35 feet. For the win. Snell. Got it. He got it. Wow. With 1.8 seconds remaining.
And New Mexico's going to dribble out the clock. The Lobos. Three-peat.
Welcome to another episode of the Pit Press Podcast. We're about 72 hours away from college basketball. I absolutely love it. My name is Ryan Tamori, and I'm joined by the Lobo fan since 1970 and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs. Hey, his name's Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Great to be on with you as always.
Happy to be here. Hey, we're special guest here. I talked to this guy back in March or April. We bonded over baseball, and I love talking to him, and he's been supportive of us nationally, and I'm very happy to have him on again. His name is Nick Lorensen. He's I'm going to just say the Twitter guy for Mid-Major Madness, but we're going to give him an actual title. Mid-Major Madness Twitter Director. Welcome to 2023. Nick, my man, what's going on? And now that we're on the record, I'm so sorry about your Orioles.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ryan. Hey, I was telling you beforehand, it's good that at least they lost the World Series champions, but it was a blast going to that game. It was a blast talking to you. That had to be maybe April or May at the beginning of the baseball season. But, yeah, I'm excited. We're 72 hours away. I'm now on a coaching staff this year since the last time we talked. So I just pulled into Queens. We go to Marshall on Monday, leave on Sunday morning, and hopefully beat the Thundering Herd for 2 years in a row. But these Lobos this year, there's a good chance, if everything goes right, that they could get an at-large bid, that they could be a top 25 team sometime this year. There's a lot of optimism about this program for the first time in quite a bit.
Our listeners and the Duke City will appreciate that. We're gonna ask you about your thoughts on the Mountain West Conference and then UNM here down the stretch. But I'll ask you this first. You're with Queens, which I grew up in New Jersey. My cousin's from Staten Island. I'm a Mets fan. I was like, they made their first jump to D1 last year. From the last time we talked, can you elaborate on what you're doing? Just fill us in on what you've been doing.
Yeah, so it's a lot of scouting stuff. So I'm picking apart a lot of film. I'm doing that. I'm helping out on the media side a little bit because obviously that's where I have a little bit of a footprint. So I'm helping them out with that. I'm traveling with the team. Just a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff, really. Try to get a little footing in coaching basketball, hopefully in the future. So really good staff here. We have a really good staff here. It's on Trilly Donovan. Our first scrimmage went really, really well against VMI. We hit 18 threes. Chris Ashby had 8 of them. We played Charleston last weekend. That also went really well. So, I'm excited for this year for us. I think that we're going to be really good. We have a really, really good team, potential ASUN Player of the Year candidate in AJ McKee. And they're fun. They're fast. And it's just a really good spot, a really good staff, a really good team. It's going to be an exciting season. And it's going to be fun to see how I can juggle both this and the media stuff at the same time.
I've within the last 2 years, I'm a new because I was a print guy. Twitter killed what I was doing, but I have 4 or 5 favorite Twitter accounts. Trilly Donovan is now up there. Mr. Ice of Barstool. I know it's 2 Barstool guys, but Mr. Ice, dude, we bet with him every day. Why can't I think of that? No, I don't fade him, but yeah, dude. Maybe I have an episode with my buddy Jacob Neff, who's at NM Sports Capper on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. His uncle used to work was a bigwig in Vegas in gambling regards, and you might like that conversation. But Trilly Donovan's up there. Obviously, Frank Fleming, Ilio, and Bronio, and Mr. Ice. Barry on here might be my favorite Twitter guy.
I love Barry.
I got to show you love. I do like Mid-Major Madness, and I'll probably be retweeting you a lot this year. But yeah, I like Trilly Donovan. To questions about basketball and mid majors. I'm not going to even ask you anything about the major conferences, but that redundant much redundancy there. I'm going to start with FAU. They come in preseason AP top 10. What are your thoughts on Dusty May, FAU heading into this season? And for those who don't know, Florida Atlantic University. My buddy got his online degree.
Yeah.
My buddy got his online degree there and then wasn't paying attention to March Madness and was like, oh, holy shit, they're in the Final Four. They get everybody back, including probably you could make an argument their star player, John L. Davis. And then again, they enter the season preseason AP top 10. What are your thoughts on Dusty May and what do you think they can accomplish in the 2023, 2024?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to mention your buddy it was a complete disservice not to go down to Boca Raton and get his degree. I don't know why the hell you would get a degree from FAU and not go down to Boca Raton. That's maybe the only place in Florida I would want to live outside of maybe Miami. So I don't understand why I did that. But Dusty May, a lot of people will say really, really good things about him. And every time I've been able to sit down and talk with him, I mean, he's one of the class acts in the country. He's a really, really hard worker. So putting all this together, I mean, he started as a manager at Indiana. He worked his way up. Now he's a head coach. And there really isn't much to work with outside of obviously the location. And you have the beach at FAU. The basketball facilities aren't too great. But now he's turned them into someone to keep a program to keep an eye out for. I mean, like you mentioned, Ryan, they return all 5 starters pretty much from last year. I actually like Elijah Martin more than Janelle Davis, but they're both really, really good players. They're going to be All-American candidates all year. I think they take a little step down, but I'm still thinking they're an at-large team in the NCAA tournament. But that's more because of the league they're in. The Conference USA was really good last year, but they're in the American now with Memphis, and it's just a whole completely new dynamic. The travel is a little bit crazier. The Conference USA's travel is crazy, but this travel is a little bit more crazier because you got to go up to Philly. You still got to take that trip all the way out to San Antonio. You're far away from everything to begin with. So, in their non-conference schedule, they have an amazing non-conference schedule. They have that Field of 68 thing, I know, with Liberty, with Charleston. They have the Barstool Invitational where they're playing Loyola Chicago to open up the season. So, they're challenging themselves. They should have not been a 9 seed last year, 8 seed, whatever they were last year, and everyone ended up figuring that out. So I think Dusty May really scheduled it around this year so they could maybe be a 4 or 5 seed, a 3 seed. But this team should be really good. Again, I have them second behind St. Mary's in my mid-major top 25. But for anyone who's saying, oh, they shouldn't be a top 15 team in the country, they were a fluke. They won like 35 games last year, and they were dominant all season long. So you're just yelling at clouds at that point.
Ed and I have more so Ed on this podcast. We have a saying, and I go back to when I was in college, when I was a 6-year college student at UNM. But, but hey, don't knock my U.S. history degree and post Civil War Reconstruction on. We can have a debate about that all day. The last 250 years. We have a saying, 09, 2010, yeah, UNM got ousted by Isaiah Thomas and Washington, and God, there was another guy on that team, Spites. I'm forgetting his name, but anyway, they went 30-5. 30 win seasons do not grow on trees, so I totally get that, and I applaud FA. I applaud any run in deep in the tournament. I've got another friend that the Blue Bloods win, and I'm like, I get that, but I don't know. I think that's what makes college basketball fantastic is the Cinderella. And look at what Tulane did in the Cotton Bowl last year. I know it's college football, but anyway, USC probably didn't want to be there. But you've got, if I counted this correctly, right, you've got 4 teams in the preseason AP top 25 from mid majors. You've got, I think, FAU at 10, Gonzaga at 11. And I'll ask you about Gonzaga down the road. San Diego State at 17, St. Mary's at 23. And then we have another question about that. I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but what are your thoughts on at least 4 teams being in the top 25 preseason AP poll?
I mean, it's awesome for this level of basketball. It's starting to get a lot more eyes. People are starting to care about it. There's St. Mary's, you would never think over the years a Jeff Goodman or a John Rothstein would be out there in the preseason. And Ryan, you were mentioning how you were at the media day a couple weeks ago, the WCC Mountain West one. And Jeff Goodman was drilling in the whole time. I think St. Mary's is a Final Four team. I think St. Mary's is a Final Four team. And then he's been posting it on social media nonstop too. And when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, they won the regular season title last year in the WCC. That hasn't happened in a while. They bring back Aiden Mahaney, who was one of the best freshmen in the country last year, and he's going to be All-American candidate. They challenged UConn in the NCAA tournament unlike any other team, and it would have been much closer if Alex Dukas didn't hurt his back in that game, and he returns. And Coach Bennett just continues to bring in this awesome talent, rather it be from Australia or rather it be from California, and they compete up there with the big boys. They play San Diego State, who's also ranked. I don't think the San Diego State team's as strong as last year because they lose some players, but they'll still be really good. They bring in Jay Powell from Campbell, who I really, really love. But I think you got Gonzaga. Gonzaga is a little bit different this year. They have obviously a lot of moving pieces, a lot of transfer pieces coming in. I don't think they're as deep as they were in the past, but they always compete. I think the St. Mary's team really intrigues me, though, out of the four. They're going to be really good. They play amazing defense. They return top players. They won a game in the NCAA tournament. Keep an eye out for St. Mary's, but it's awesome to see four teams in the pool. And I wouldn't be shocked if, say, a Memphis in a couple weeks is in it. Boise State returns pretty much everyone from a team who made the NCAA tournament last year, and Leon Rice has done an amazing job over there. They could be up there with New Mexico as well throughout the season. So really, really keep an eye out for that. I also think Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon is my long shot team to maybe make it in the top 25 sometime this year.
I need to go see a game there. That's on the list. That environment looks ruckus. Speaking of the West Coast Conference, what do Gonzaga and Mark Few do this year? This is kind of a softball question, but you lose Drew Timme, Julian Strother. He got what? Nuggets. Razir Bolton, Malachi Smith. I know they acquired Ryan Nemhart. I can't believe I'm saying acquired in college basketball from Creighton, and then Graham Ike from Wyoming, who 2 years ago was a stellar player. What is your outlook for Gonzaga this year?
Yeah, I think if Graham is fully healthy, I thought he was going to be the best player in the league last year. If he's fully healthy, that's a huge deal for them. But it's just moving pieces. Ryan Nemhart's trying to do what his brother did there at Gonzaga and be successful. I think he could be really successful. If everything goes right, he could get that 12 points per game up to maybe 18, 20. But he's the true point guard, 5 assists per game in the Big East, might I add. So that's really good. You got him coming in. Nolan Hickman's back. They got Jesse Stromer coming in. He was highly recruited. But yeah, I just don't think they're as deep as they have been. Anton Watson's back. He was good for them last year. They have Steel Venters coming in, who I thought, I was really high on him in the preseason. But against good competition, he struggled sometimes. He did make about 2.5 3-pointers per game, 15 points per game. But I don't know if those numbers really reflect his consistency. So if he plays consistent, Ryan Nemhart does what he's supposed to do, Graham Ike is healthy, they could be a top 15 team all year. But I also think this could be a down year for Gonzaga. A down year for Gonzaga is still a 6-7 seed in the NCAA tournament. Maybe they're fringe top 25 all year. But I'm feeling not as confident on Gonzaga as I have been in the past.
Gotcha. I still think they're a force to be reckoned with, just because Mark Few's there. But I don't know what you mentioned about Randy Bennett and what he's got there. Yeah. Switching gears to the Mountain West Conference. Looking back to April, 7-8 months ago. I'm terrible at math, but Matt Bradley's gone, Kassad Johnson's gone, Nathan Mensah's gone, Seiko's gone, Adam Seiko. Mm-hmm. You look back, now that time maybe has to dwell on it, what do you, or settle, that hangover's over, but what did you make of that San Diego State run?
I think about it every once in a while because I was at their first 2 games in Orlando. They beat a really, really good Charleston team. I should have paid more attention to that because I was so high on Charleston all year, and I'm like, they're going to be the team that made a run. But it really didn't do all that much to me. Then they won their next game against Furman, and that's also it's Furman. They kind of won on a fluke there. it's whatever. But then they just kept winning, and I saw them at the Final Four, and they made that run. That run in the Final Four game against Florida Atlantic, where they were down double digits and they made it close late. That was really where I opened my eyes. I think it took way too long for me to open my eyes and be like, the San Diego State team's really good. But Brian Dutcher, and he's been drilling in the heads of media all offseason. During the Final Four, after the national championship, I asked, you said something along the lines of, you are a high major program in a mid-major league, and someone from the Mountain West got really mad at me and came stepping towards me, but that's besides the point. But he's been drilling this whole offseason, and they're starting to, you see it more and more. Yeah, they've always had the great atmosphere there, the packed house, nice arena, recruited really well. But this tournament run's really helping them recruiting-wise. I mean, it was a special run. It was a special run, no doubt. I think Florida Atlantic's run was a little bit more special, but they made the national championship. And that should be nothing to look over, because for a long time, it was the question, can the Mountain West do anything at all in the NCAA tournament? And I mean, people are still having that question. But San Diego State made that run last year, and they proved, hey, maybe, especially now that the Pac-12 is not going to have a league after this year, is this the elite conference out west? So that San Diego State run did a lot for the league. It did a lot for that program, because now there's a chance they could be the premier true Western college basketball program, because I'm not going to count those Big Ten teams and the ACC teams that are traveling cross country. They aren't going to play against Western teams. So when you're watching Western teams play against Western teams, San Diego State's going to be the class here soon.
I'm trying to toss it to Ed here real quick, but it's funny when you bring up Viejas, because about 13, 14 years ago, my buddy was a manager. I always shout him out. Mike Mott was a manager for Alfred, and he's like, got great sense of humor. Like, but he was like, man, I can't knock the student section, the show at Viejas, because he's like, dude, they were giving me a hard time, and he goes, it was really, it was really good, and it was really funny. So anyway, Ed, sorry about that.
Nick, you mentioned about San Diego State, and and Ryan did too, about some of the key players that they lost in New Mexico. Actually, I thought beat them pretty convincingly and had a chance to win here. And then Malcolm Butler hit that last second shot. They did lose some key players from last season.
Lamont Butler, Malcolm Butler picked off Tom Brady.
Yeah,
no good. I was like, wait, who?
Yeah, wrong Butler, but Lamont Butler hit that last second shot here at the pit to beat New Mexico. But they did lose some key players, but are still kind of regarded as a favorite to win the conference title. You mentioned some of the things that they've done there as far as recruiting. Your comment to that guy about it's a mid-major. That wasn't a wrong comment. I can understand someone from the Mountain West Conference maybe being a little sensitive about it, but it's not wrong. What's your outlook, your big outlook on San Diego State?
Yeah, I think they'll still be up there all year. They'll be a top 25 team, but we've seen it in the league. It really hasn't been a cakewalk for them. And the competition, that's why Mountain West gets 4 or 5 teams every year. I have them so high because they're coming off the NCAA tournament. They return a couple pieces. They bring in a nice transfer class. But if I'm going to be honest, at this point, I'd probably say Boise State's my favorite in the league because of what they return. I really like this Boise State team. San Diego State, though, they have the chance to build up a resume in the non-conference as always, and they have a solid group returning and some transfer pieces coming in. They'll win, 27, 28 games, but I'm not as high as I have been. And maybe that's just because I'm blind to San Diego State. I feel like I become really blind to San Diego State, and that kind of showed last year. But 27, 28 wins and maybe finish a game behind Boise State in the league. I don't think it's as much as a cakewalk as some people think it is going to be for San Diego State in the Mountain West this year, and it's never been.
A lot of eyes on San Diego State now that they've had that success, going to a national title game. So that, a lot more respect for you. I think you mentioned that for the Mountain West and for San Diego State. So more expectations, I believe, as well. You mentioned Boise State, and they've got a very good team coming back. How good can Leon Rice and that Boise State squad be? How good can they be?
I think they could be competing for, like how Colorado State was a 6 seed a couple years ago. I think this could be the year that Boise State gets that 6 seed. Every year they're taking small little jumps, little jumps, little jumps. But they return. I mean, Max Rice is back. Tyson Dagenhart's back. They have a nice little Andrew Meadow. I think is going to be the freshman of the year in this league. I want to call him Freebird. He wears these goggles and he has long hair, and he's going to be so much fun to watch. But it's like he just keeps bringing in these killer mindset players to Boise. Now they lose. Who is that guard who hit all the big shots late? I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but they need someone to come up with that clutch ability like they've had the last couple of years, really push them into that. I think they're gonna find someone, and they've been able to find someone every year, but to push them into that top 25, to push them into the league regular season title. But out of anyone in the league, I mean, obviously, I think New Mexico has the most potential in the NCAA tournament because they have two players that could go out and they can drop 35 points and just absolutely take over a game. But depth and team-wise, I think this Boise State team's the most solid team in the league when you go 1 to 5 and then on the bench.
Marcus Shaver. I almost called him Ryan.
Yeah.
I almost called him Ryan Shazier. Don't ask me why. Don't get old. I'm sure I'm going to irritate a lot of Lobo fan, but this Mountain West Conference just seems to have stacked point guards. Isaiah Stevens of Colorado State. We had a fantastic conversation with Nico Medved. He was probably he's up there with the conversations we had at Mountain West Conference basketball media days. But how good of a point guard is Isaiah Stevens in your mind nationally?
I think he's up there. He's top 3 in mid-major basketball. I saw him last year in Charleston. I believe it was against my Gamecocks, and he played really well. The whole question last year was they had injuries, and it was like they were kind of just middling all year. But Isaiah Stevens, he ended up finishing averaging about 20 points per game, and he kept him into that. And he has that experience where he's been around when they've won with David Roddy. I think he's a top 3 point guard in the country. I think or in mid-major basketball. I think he's probably the best out west. He's just a different level player, and he's gonna be up there all season. He's gonna get a whole bunch of eyes, and this Colorado State team's gonna be good too. There's a ton of really good teams in the league this year. I mean, Boise State, Colorado State, Nevada, New Mexico, San Diego State. I know some people are high on Utah State, some people are high on UNLV, but I just can't really buy into the UNLV stuff after they had a good non-conference last year, and then they struggled in conference play, and there's a whole bunch of transfer guys, and Utah State's just a whole bunch of transfer guys. But we know those 5 teams are going to be good, and Isaiah Stevens is going to be one of the best guards in the country, and that really helps him out and helps him be that great team all year.
Isaiah Stevens, I know, is injury-ridden, 17.9, almost 18 points a game, almost 7 assists a game. He's a special guy. Again, irritating Lobo fan here. These guys that give us our time, like Nico Medved, Danny Sprinkle at Utah State was great to talk to. The former Montana State head coach, great to talk to. Steve Alford's up there, man. I never had an issue with Coach Alford. He's great, at least in my mind. But what do you make of Nevada and this Nevada team, with Jared Lucas and Keenan Blackshear coming back?
Yeah, I think they're one of the most slept on teams in the country. Absolutely no one is talking about Nevada last year. They made the NCAA tournament. I don't care that they got blown out in the NCAA tournament. They made the NCAA tournament, and they returned Lucas, Blackshear from that team. And then, all year it was the question is Hunter McIntosh going to play? Is Hunter McIntosh going to play? He's really going to take this Nevada team to the next level. And he's here this year. They were an NCAA tournament team without him last year, and now he's in. They also bring in Tylen Pope from Utah Tech, and Jeriah Coleman's back. I think there's top 4 is going to be obviously Boise, New Mexico, San Diego State, and this Nevada team, but no one's talking about them, and I just don't understand that because they were one of the darlings last year, and they returned their 2-star guards, and the third guard that everyone was questioning, is he going to come back? And if he comes back, they're going to be different, and he's back. they're going to be slept on, and I feel like something special could be happening over there in Reno this year.
You know, Nick, we had you on the show after the season ended, and you were high on Coach Richard Pitino with the Lobos and everything they did to that roster. Do you still feel that way now that the season's almost starting in November?
Yeah, I mean, I love Isaac Mushila from A&M Corpus Christi. He was great on the defensive end there for a while. You got Nelly Jr. Joseph, who's one of the best players in the MAC for a while. Mustafa Amzil, who I wanted to come to South Carolina and be a Gamecock. He got him out to Albuquerque, which is just two completely different places, but he got him out to Albuquerque, and I think he has the potential to be an all-league player. And then you have that backcourt, and you also bring in Jamal Baker from Fresno State. He's done an amazing job recruiting these guys, getting high-quality talent, bringing the pit back to life. It's the question just always with him is, can he do it in February? If he can do it in February and this team wins and they push into the NCAA tournament with momentum, like I was mentioning earlier, you have two players who can really take over a game, score 35, 40 points on any given night and shock some people. If there's a team in the league that I think can make a legit run in the NCAA tournament, it's this New Mexico team, because of what he's brought in to really that front court that he brought in. I mean, Junior Joseph, Ushila, and Amzil, they should take some of the eyes away from House and Mashburn, which will help them get open shots. So I love the job he did in the transfer portal. I love that he's brought the pit back. It just comes down to if he can retain that momentum and if they can have a strong February.
Well, a lot of Lobo fans would love to hear that. You know, it's Coach Pitino called it the best recruiting class, or one of the best ones in Lobo history. And as a Lobo fan since 1970, I might have taken a few issues with that. And expectations are going to be high, as they always are around here. You know, we had him on the Pit Press podcast about a month and a half ago or so. What can you tell Lobo fans about Texas A&M Corpus Christi transfer Isaac Mushila, who transferred to UNM in the offseason? We just a little background there. He didn't play the other night against New Mexico Highlands. Neither did Jamal Baker or Jalen House. But we enjoyed Isaac Mushila when we had him on the podcast, and the guy comes with a great reputation for snatch and rebound. So what can you tell us about him?
Side note there, Nick, my Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islanders.
Yeah, it's a beautiful campus. I mean, Steve Lutz, 2 years down there, he did an amazing job recruiting them, and 2 NCAA tournament appearances got him a job at Western Kentucky. So an amazing job. But Isaac Mushila has been an absolute rock down low for this A&M Corpus Christi team for 2 years. I mean, he averaged 13.2 points, 9.4 rebounds in his junior year. And he was one of the best offensive glass eaters in the league, or in the country, actually. It says he was 9th in the country. But he just doubled that up with another really, really good year. And I mean, he can put up boards, or he can put up shots close to the basket, and then he can pick up boards. I mean, he averaged 9.9 per game. He had 27 double-doubles in 2 seasons at A&M Corpus Christi. He was the student athlete of the year in the whole Southland Conference. I know it's the Southland, but he's still the best they have to offer. He was really the rock of that team at A&M Corpus Christi, and was the reason why they were so consistent over 2 years outside of Coach Lutz, obviously. An impact player like that, he could have went Power 5 and probably been the first man off the bench and been an awesome glass eater. I think he's kind of like if Miami basketball, Norchad Omier, he reminds me of him with just the consistent double doubles, working around the basket, being really good with rebounds and helping his team out. He's going to be the ultimate teammate. He's going to help out everything. He's a good student as well, so he helps that out as well. You weren't going to get many better big men in the country than Isaac Mushila.
I think the other thing impressive to me is he shoots 83% from the free throw line. You know, his stats for both years were very consistent, and a man of few words when we had him on, but he's that guy that's going to get you that rebound when you need one. You know, we're going to ask about, we saw him the other night, Dayton forward transfer Mustafa Amzil, but real quick note, I thought the other night, at least it's early, I don't think he's gotten used to shooting in the pit yet. He missed some open looks that normally I'm sure he would knock down the pit, shooting that background. It's a little bit different. He hasn't got used to that yet. But what can you tell us about Dayton forward transfer Mustafa Amzil?
Yeah, I mean, he's lengthy. Oh, he's a good free throw shooter as well. But he started a lot of games for the Staten team over the last couple of years, and he's been a key piece to why every single preseason they're so highly touted. He appeared in every game, made 19 starts, averaged just under 11 points per game. But he has takeover ability. If he's able to get his shots falling, he can absolutely take over a game. I believe there's one game he dropped like 20 points really quickly. SMU, he only played 23 minutes in an SMU game. I believe they lost that, but he had them in that game at a point. I know it was the beginning of the season, but Dayton basketball was already feeling a little bit down about themselves. And I mean, he was just there the whole season to really help him along. He's 6'9", he can stretch the game out a little bit. Ended up making 45 threes on the year. So if you have a guy who can be strong down low, eat minutes for your team, not do anything funky, shoot the three ball, that's as helpful as you can get. I think Nelly Jr. Joseph will probably start over him, but when you have someone of his quality coming off of the bench, it's like you're rolling like in the Big 12 over there.
Coach Pitino seems to have a lot of depth and a lot of guys that he might be able to play, and that's going to be good and maybe bad because sometimes coaches get lost in the shuffle here. But we wanted to ask you about Nelly Jr. Joseph. Just got here about a week and a half ago or so, and we saw him the other night against New Mexico Highlands, and I still think in watching him, he did New Mexico Highlands Center kind of took it to him a couple of times, and I think he's still finding his way. But I think you mentioned a couple of things about him, but how do you see Nelly Jr. Joseph helping UNM? It's a big transfer here, right? I think we lost New Mexico lost Josiah Alec and Mo Udeze, but I think getting Nelly Jr. Joseph was pretty good catch for Coach Pitino. What can you tell us about Nelly Jr. Joseph?
Yeah, he's another guy who can do everything for you. He can score down low. He can get the rebounds. Now, he's not going to stretch the game out and shoot those three balls, but he was MAC Freshman of the Year 2 years ago under Coach Pitino. Last year, he was probably their most impactful player for a team that challenged UConn in the first half, national champions in the NCAA tournament. But, I mean, he brings in 15 points, 9.3 rebounds per game. So you have now, three guys on your team that you brought in via the transfer portal that are going to be consistent double-double threats every night. And it's absolutely insane. He had 6 blocks in a game against Hofstra, so he can do that as well. He's going to be probably the biggest force down low out of anyone because of his size. He's 6'10", 240. He's going to play more like a center compared to Amzil or compared to Mushila. But, I mean, he's going to play a lot of minutes, and he's going to put up double-double numbers every other game, if not flirt with it every game. So I don't think there's a better front court just transfer portal class than what New Mexico had in the whole country.
Wow.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah.
I'm going to gather, who I hope is good this year, and I don't even have ties to him, is the Fordham Rams. I don't know why. Now I'm going back to my parents' neck of the woods and my motherland, to where I'm going back to the last question, because I know you got to get going. Are you going to have next Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, UNM's at St. Mary's? Is that a game on your radar early in the season?
It's the game on my radar. Yeah, it's the number one game. I'm gonna be in Carbondale, Illinois, so I'll be up. I'll be watching it. There's absolutely no doubt. I mean, also when San Diego State plays St. Mary's, I think that's the week after. So it's a Thursday night too. I know we're talking about New Mexico right now, but St. Mary's, I don't think there's a better mid-major conference in the schedule there's not a better mid-major schedule in the country than what St. Mary's has done, because they're playing like top 2-3 teams in every league. They don't have a single easy game. And obviously that's in Moraga, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have a team of New Mexico's caliber who's going to be a potential top 25 team and top 40 in Ken Palm all year coming into your place. So if you end up winning that for St. Mary's, that's like an elite level win that will translate. And if you end up going into St. Mary's as a Lobo and You beat a team who's going to be potential top 15 all year, and Jeff Goodman has them as a potential Final Four national championship team. That win's going to translate all year, and it's going to be on your resume. So that really is the elite game of opening week, in my opinion, for mid-major basketball. There's a couple really good games, but that might be the game of the preseason, just in general, for mid-major basketball.
They beat them. UNM beat them in Moraga last year, which ended, I don't know how long of a home game winning streak. Hey man, I know you got to get going. We're pulling this close. He's the Twitter director of Mid-Major Madness on the X or the Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. Man, if you ever come down to Albuquerque, you got a place to stay and you can go to the Pit. We appreciate your time coming on this podcast, man. With all the national stuff you do, and I don't know, it's much. I'm gonna be a broken record. It's much appreciated. His name's Nick Lorensen. Thanks, man.
I appreciate you. I always love hopping on here, talking some Mountain West, talking some Lobos, and it's always fun to catch up.
I'll be bugging you down the road. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot, Nick.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it. Have a good one.
I appreciate you guys. Shoot me a text